Welcome to the stream, everybody. We're going to be real quick today. Going to actually go through old files, and by the end of this video, the end of the stream, basically have a setup tone for clearing up a asset library for Blender. So having a full setup where I have my resources and then my project files all cleaned up, all organized, and the real point of this is to look at these projects that I've done before that I can reuse for the current project and or any future effort, right? If I know I worked on these things before, but maybe I don't have them, present as much, kind of go through and make sure that I'm making the most out of the work I've done before. Right? Now that I know things in Blender that I didn't know before, update some of those files. So we'll just get right into it. We're going to be using the asset editor to make this happen. So we open a new Blender file. We're going to delete everything that we have there. And we're going to merge these two views actually, and we're going to set this one to asset editor. That's all the way, asset browser, all the way over on the right. Now, it'll default to the assets that you have saved in this current file, but what we're going to do is actually open that up, and if you don't have these showing up, for example, like at least the user library, if you don't typically use the asset editor, you want to go to Edit, Preferences, and then under file paths, you want to set where you're going to be saving all your Blender assets. So I have two different locations here. The user library are my project files, and I just kept the default name. We could actually rename this to what the folder is called. And then here I have like a resources folder. So these are project-specific files that I'd like to keep using for this particular project, and then these are just general resources that work for any project. So we hit Save Preferences, and we close that, and then we should be having those file paths show up here. And if any objects in those folders are labeled as or marked as an asset, they'll start showing up over here. Now, how does something get put into the asset browser itself? Well, that depends. If you download it online, then something might have already been marked as an asset by whoever created the file or the previous whoever uploaded it. However, if you don't know how to mark assets, then you won't see anything in here. So for example, I'll go into 98 Blender, and I'll start to see a bunch of things that I've marked as an asset, but a lot of things that I've downloaded off the internet, and that likely have been marked as assets by other people. So we have here a bunch of different things. So my resources folder is actually pretty on the up and up. Most of these things aren't broken. They have a preview, we have materials, we have different models. So let's go over into the visual mode folder where we have a whole bunch of different things, different projects. And what we want to do here, if you do have anything existing previously, then you want to right click on whatever that asset is. Like let's say red carpet. That sounds like something I want to be using. So we'll hit Open Blend File just by selecting it and then right clicking it. You're going to go to Open Blend File. And that's going to open a separate instance of Blender where you're going to be able to edit this asset. So we're basically going to have in the background this asset browser Blender file as we kind of go through all these different things. So if this asset is actually part of another project or downloaded by a plugin, you won't have the proper preview show up for Blender, but you can always add the general layout, right? So that we can see the actual asset. And the actual asset, in this case, it's a material. So we want to add in an object so that we can see the material and apply right here, red carpet. And then switch over to material preview. That looks like a solid material, especially if I go into cycles. And we add a light because it was a blank file when we opened it up. So just add in point light and increase its intensity. And it's got a good bump for cycles. It looks like a little bit of weirdness is going on. Maybe because of how I have my light set up. If I move the light further away, we still have some lightness going. Maybe I have to subdivide the sphere some more. I just want to vet this material before I make it an asset. And it does seem to be like breaking at the edges. Not sure if it's a bump or the displacement, or if it's a particular setting of the texture itself, but it seems to be happening from all angles. So although it can look pretty good, it's not good for close-ups, and I do tend to do a lot of detail shots, so I'm actually not going to go with an asset on this one. So it's important to inspect that material well, and to know whether or not it's salvageable or you can move forward. So in this case, I'll actually open up the shader editor and see what's going on here, fix this issue. It might just be I would hope that it is just some kind of lighting issue or render setting issue, the fact that this is a blank file. If I put an area light on, I still see, you know, let's go crazy. Let's put like 8 subdivisions on this here. It'll take a moment to load. But the more subdivisions, the more we can tell whether or not this material is worth saving, because these little sharp edges and sort of geometry things that are peeking through the material itself could be from the surface itself not being detailed enough to take the displacement map of the material. And if you don't know what I'm saying, the displacement map is just a black and white image that pushes the model up or down. It's kind of a way to cheat geometry into it. So if you don't have enough resolution on your model for that displacement map to do its magic, then you end up with this sort of sharp, conditions. Either way, I don't think I'm going to go with it. So I'll go ahead and quit out of the Blender file that is blowing up my computer right now. Has not finished. Or has it? Oh, there we go. Okay, so actually go down and eliminate that carpet. So actually we got to open the blend file once more. And this is how you set something as an asset or you clear it as an asset. So we go into that file where it's located. I don't want to bother with finding out what file has it. We can go over here to orphan data because there's nothing in here. We can see all the materials. We see the red carpet. You right click and you clear asset. Right? So the same thing if you created something new. So if I go to a previous file, such as this scene I made for a friend's product, I have this whole environment built out. So let's say I wanted to keep this arch as an asset. So let's reveal the arches, and I select all of these different elements. Not 4. All these different elements, and I hit Control J, join them together. I can then press period on the number pad, or if you're emulating a number pad with the Blender settings, either way, period. You locate that object, you rename that object, so we'll rename it Steel Arch. Period again, find where it goes, right click, and you hit Mark as Assets. So basically, this project folder from before, I can continue using as I normally set it up for. It's still the same old render that I had here. But in this instance now, I'm able to use the elements in this file in other files. So for example, these light fixtures, I want to also take with me. So I could find out where that light fixture is, and I see the light fixture, the wall light, and right here, is a whole collection of objects, right, that produce this effect. So what I can do is actually now mark the collection as an asset. I'll hit mark as assets, and then save my file, close it, and now when I go to my asset browser, and it reloads, we will see our light fixture. So we have our wall light here, and we have our steel arch right there. Just added it in. Cool. So moving on, we can try and see what else can we salvage from here. And a lot of these things actually are repeated, like all these plaster texture models. So if I wanted to get rid of all those, it might be a little time consuming. So what we'll do is, since actually it seems like most of these aren't even models, it might be mostly textures. We have a corner lamp here, or a couch Barcelona. Let's see couch Barcelona. And you can tell what's the material or what's an object by the way, the symbol that you have. So we can also try looking for another one. We can open up in the meantime the EVA chair. See what that is. Okay, so the Barcelona bench is this thing right here. I can go ahead and find that right here. It is a collection. It is already marked as an asset. I'm not sure why I wasn't getting a proper preview of it then. It might be because I wasn't the one to set it as an asset. So the government bases, I can still just hit clear asset, and then right click, mark asset. Save my file. I see here there's another asset marked in this file, and it's the planter, actually. The coffee table might be the coffee table. Yep. So I can also go ahead and clear that as an asset, and then make as an asset again. Save my file. Always important to save that file, and then close it up. You see here the EVA chair, and it's actually, I mean, it's modeled okay. The render is fine, but it's not quite optimized or easy to edit with all that wireframe going on. And it might not even have any. Oh, it looks like it has textures. Turn that into an area light once more. Just forget about the one light. And adding a floor always helps. So we get later. Okay. So the wireframe is actually, I don't know why the wireframe is shown through my render view. Must be just how the base file is set up. I'm not loving just how reflective the wood is. So this is where I could make changes to that. If I click into the object, go to my material, I see here the wood, and I can turn down its, let's see, what's making it so shiny. It actually seems like there's not much information on this material. Yeah, we only have a color. So what we want to do is actually modify some of these values. So roughness, we do want to keep it pretty smooth. However, what's up with all this reflection going on that wood? It looks like it has like clear coat enabled, but it's only meant with the clear coat roughness. So let me play with that a little bit. And we should have more roughness, or one or the other. Not so much clear coat. Yeah, that looks way better. So it's fairly smooth, but the clear coat is just completely blowing out the bottom there. We'll go ahead and leave that surface now that we figured it out. And that seed texture isn't so bad. I can still replace it. I'll do that on a case-to-case basis. So now that this asset is all set, make sure that I go over to my where are we at? Asset browser. No, sorry, asset browser. Outliner. So I can see my. There we go. This is why we had a duplicate asset. So I actually want to clear one of these. Looks like they're linked, but I'll go ahead and make the top collection to mark asset. There we go. And then when I close that, should just have one EVA chair. Yep. And we start creating previews for these as well. So we see the couch Barcelona has shown up now, and the EVA chair has shown up. All right. So lastly, in order to really see this in action, we really want to have different catalogs in this. So for example, for the visual mode, I will hit here plus to get a new asset catalog within this rather than have everything unassigned. And I can do spaces, right? Just to have general spaces layouts. I have these different models that I've made into this one file that have different arches, different openings, different sort of windows and such. Oh yeah, what happened to the logo? Uh, what logo? Let me know what you mean if it's something that's on here in the 3D model or something about the screen. I'm not sure what logo you mean. Or the logo on the channel. I did sort of switch logos a little bit on the channel. It was a logo actually I already had. I just had two different variations. One, I decided to switch it up and use a different one. It's off. If you could clarify for me, because I don't really know what you mean, the logo being off. Oh, on the wall behind me. I just forgot. Thanks. It could be up sometimes too. There's different colors we can throw in these. You know what? I'm gonna do a different color. Just because, or what color should I put? Any suggestion? I feel like I haven't done purple. All right, so we have some purple going on in the background. Next, we'll get into, right, so now we want to be able to set this space into the catalog for spaces, right? So we open this 3D view. Not sure why I did that, because what we have to do is actually just open the blend file. But it is a precursor to wanting to drop things in from the asset browser into the main model. So here I'm back into the main file. And now what I want to do is switch over to the visual mode, file. We see here that we don't have the catalog, right? So we want to name the same catalog, spaces, and then we start dragging from unassigned into spaces. And what else do we have here? We have some furniture. So a new catalog, called furniture. Go back to unassigned, and then grab some of the furniture here and put it. Oh no, this is an asset that's actually in a different file. So we'll go ahead and hit open blend file. And again, when I close this one out, because I'm opening that new chair one, I have to make sure I save. So I keep those new changes. Now we're just waiting a second so we get our Barcelona chair. And same thing with the asset browser. Go ahead and drag that over into furniture. Cool. There it is. And the other unassigned ones, I think we have a coffee table in here too. Oh, the EVA chair is actually in this file somewhere. Oh, no, never mind. Again, this is the general asset browser. And I know that because when I start to drag it over, it turns red. It says only assets from this current file can be moved between catalogs. So I'll just go ahead and make like easy. Oh, here's a coffee table. So the Petra coffee table. Now that one I can drag over because I did mark it as an asset from here. And you know what? I do have this glowing logo also in the in the 3D. So I'll go ahead and mark that as an asset too, because that's something I can end up using. So we'll call it glowing icosphere. Thanks again, Jan, for letting me know about the light. Appreciate that you missed it. I'll go ahead and mark it as an asset. Glowing icosphere. I go to unassigned. Let me know if you have any questions, by the way. I was told it would have been nice for the live stream. A viewer told me it would have been nice to have a Q&A at the end, and I think I want to start making space for that. Make sure I have a question and answer session at the end of the live stream, even if it is, giving the opportunity, opening the floor for you to ask something or tell me something. So I'm going to put this into brand shapes because feel like that for me makes sense because I tend to make a lot of different like 3D variations of my logos and such. So, yep, that marked as an asset. Go to unassign. Go down, hit my glowing microsphere, and drop that into branch shapes. Okay, we'll close out of that and hit save. There is, ooh, that's concerning. Something went wrong. Nothing. Oh, it crashed for whatever reason. In any case, I'm going to open the main file. A lot of files. I'm just going to mark. No, I don't have to mark anything as an asset. Let's go with a blank file. And now really show off why we want to use assets. So we'll do a totally, we'll do this. I'll open up Photoshoot, which we did yesterday, because it has cameras and it has a bunch of baked-in lighting, and maybe we can get over the camera glitch that wasn't allowing me to render in stereoscopy view. Oh, haha, this is not the right Photoshoot file. This is the Photoshoot file that contains our assets. The one from yesterday, I already bumped off because I was opening so many files, not in my recent cycle. Luckily, I have a great folder system. So here's our studio file from yesterday. Forgot to delete the cards, we don't want those in here. And I also remember we forgot to hide the spheres from the final render. So if you missed it yesterday or haven't seen the video, we just set up this real simple scene with a wall, and an irregular pattern on the wall with some different material spheres so that we can set up a real nice rendering product photorealistic scene. So now that we have a bunch of cameras and stuff here, I'm going to do a save as. Just going to take advantage of the fact that a lot of the work is already done for me. And in fact, maybe set up this whole collection of cameras as an asset too. I can just use this lighting setup in any situation, just drag it in. But I'll right click here to create a new folder with today's date. It is the 2nd February. And what are we doing? We're doing the asset browser. So we'll save our file folder, studio scene. And what I'm actually going to do is delete our cube, delete our spheres, and I'm going to start bringing in some assets. So I want a base plane, at least. And my base plane, I can actually texture with the material I made yesterday called paint. That I may also want to add as a asset. So the scale on our paint might be a little off, and we can tell that by just starting to bring in some assets. So we'll go over to the asset browser down here. Jeez, there we go. We'll put this one to look through the camera view. You can see our cool render and stay engaged and stay with something cool up on the screen. All right, so we have an endless horizon and horizontal surface and a bunch of lights, but nothing really going on, right? So I'm going to go over to my asset browser here and start picking at these different ones that I can set up. So let's first start with spaces. So I can drag in my arched enclosed space and just let it loose there. And we see it's actually huge, or the rest of my scene is really small. I can approach this either way that I want. I think my scene may actually be small, only because the texture over here, unless I have a UV plane mapping node here, I don't have one. So either way, I mean, in this case, it's all artistic. I don't have to stay, you know, in any sort of constraint. But I think what I do want to do, since I just placed the space on top of this surface, and it's just going to be easier for me, I'm going to increase the size of the surface. And then I'm going to select all my cameras and lights all together. So there's the lights, and there's all my cameras. A couple more cameras that came in with the little collection. Or were those before? Not sure. I'll just select them anyway. And scale all of that up together so that I can move it into place. All right. I can click through the different cameras, make sure I did a good job, and I might have screwed myself here. Yeah, I think my real move should have been to scale the 3D model of the space. But in any case, for now, I'll make sure I have here my arched enclosed space, and I put it into its own collection of assets. And this might just be because my assets were created different units, or I was just kind of sculpting and not really putting in units. But this is another thing to identify now, is if you start putting assets together and they're not all referencing the same size, then you have to go into those asset folders and modify them. So if I put a Barcelona chair here, we see that the Barcelona chair is actually pretty well proportioned to the space. So it might have been right there with my first notion that my camera and my lights are actually not properly placed. I'll go ahead and put the coffee table on the wall. Because that's weird. I'm going to undo. It's weird, but not weird enough. What will be weirder, right? Also, I'm rendering in two places. What would be weirder is if the couch were actually on the wall. So rather than undo, because this seems to be freezing my computer, I'll put the couch on the wall. I'll put the coffee table on the floor. I'm just going for some type of real artsy situation here, surreal thing. And then I'll put the sphere on top of the coffee table. Oop. I had a I had physics on that sphere, but it's supposed to drop. Actually, it would be nice if it dropped. I can just place it on there, but for now, I'll just go ahead and rotate it onto one of its sides. Is it 45 degrees? Nope. It might be 30 degrees. Or 15 degrees. Or I will eyeball. There we go. No, we don't go. That's pretty flat. Yeah. Move it above. Move it over. Cool. Pick a different camera. So I start designing for the camera. I want the straight on camera. Front view camera. This is the front view camera. Then I want to modify my front view camera. Move it over to the side. Rotate it 90. There we are. Now we're looking straight on at our scene. Cool. Drop in some more assets. So if I go to spaces, for example, I don't hate this view, but maybe just move this a bit more so I fit in two other windows in here, and I can put the arched space back here. And so it looks like there's more stuff going on in the background. Another thing to fix here would be the origin. So I'd want to go in and actually put the origin onto the geometry in the original file, so that stays true for the asset always. But for now, this is okay. I'll just do it in this file. Cool. So we have more stuff going on in the background, and I'll just kind of make the background more interesting by copying this light over. Actually, rather than copying the light, I'll just move the fill light to remove some light from that main scene, make it larger. Now we've gone from the asset browser to just making something cool quickly with assets. And I'll make this light super powerful and like purplish. Yeah, purplish, since we have the purple going on behind us today. All right, that's a bit much. We'll go 2. and then to be 1.2 megawatts. That's pretty good. Now increase the spread or decrease the spread. So it's more like straight on down. Rotate that. Okay. And now I'll start to soften my studio lights. So it's not so intense. No, there's a light here that's screwing everything. It's not my lights. It's, those are my lights. No, these are my lights. There's another set of lights. I know there is. I think it might be this one. Okay, I just deleted 3 lights and did nothing. It's you, isn't it? Aha! There was a point light there that came from somewhere. It was hiding somewhere else. Another thing to watch out for is if you make a collection asset, what else is inside that collection? I think that might have been my issue right now. Is that I had some kind of lights inside one of these space assets. Okay, now we got nice light going on right there, and we want to move our key light, which has ended up inside the space. And if you remember, not the key light, sorry, the highlight. From yesterday's stream, if you attended, if you watched it, the highlight I just used to kind of opposite the key light. So I have the key light over here facing the objects. Maybe place it a bit higher. So if I have to move along with the wall. Yeah, the highlight points in the opposite direction and like directly at the object, sometimes even from behind. But in this case, actually, my highlight could kind of be like a lamp that's in the corner. So if I go into looking for a lamp, oh, I can bring in my, if I go to unassigned, I had just created a whole row of lights. So we go to the wall lights. I can add in some wall lights. There they are. They're like way off their origin. But that's fine. There we go. I can add these over to the side. This is acting more as a, I'll actually add 2 steps. Oh, and I'll use Alt D on the asset, so that way I can copy the asset many times, but as far as the computer is concerned, there's only one of them. So Alt D makes a new instance. So rather than making a copy of that object, it's like there's still just one object in the scene, but it's just used multiple times. I'm gonna bring the couch wall. It was a nice little idea, but over ready. Go ahead and drop in the Barcelona chair again off to the side instead of the wall. It might be overly ambitious to be just dropping things like this in render view, but I'll roll with it. I'll add in a couple chairs. Okay, so I made this chair. So I might have been, although no, I don't think I was at a scale with making that chair. I might have, unless these other assets were made by the same person. If that person was not using the proper scale. And I want to make sure that I move my, well, this chair is dependent on empty, but more about that in the video. Okay, that's not bad. The pink light is just too much. I'm going to desaturate it. There we go. Yeah, and we can put something on the wall as like an art piece. I don't think I have anything in my asset editor that I can use as an art piece. Maybe I just use a asset from Blender Kit. And to give attribution, the person whose artwork I use. I'll place that in the description below. And also give you a nice little shout out right now when I pick one. Or you know what? Did I not create one? I did create one. I just opened so many folders or files, it's going to be really difficult to find it unless I wasn't sure where to put it. And so I dropped it on the desktop. And this is, yeah, I did just that. I know myself so well. So, yeah, this is like some weird thing I was messing with the other night. So I'll go ahead and use that. I'm just going to copy it out of this file, bring it over here. Oh, but it lost its weird properties. Maybe there's too much art now. Now I'm like critique. Oh, I like that. Having it just clip through the wall. Okay. So if I intensify the lamps now, those wall lights, I cannot intensify the wall lights. What I can do is hit shift right click and add a light there. And now this is just like quick. I mean, this is turned into like a rendering section. But I see we got a couple viewers. So if there's any questions at this time, I'll be taking them. Any questions about modeling, about setting up a scene, about where some of these assets came from or why I made them, you can ask me anything. You just type it in the chat. Just ask away. Yeah, I think I'll just intensify those two lights. And then I go to the main camera. I can now make this all more interesting by making this a warm light. Or cool lights. I'll make it a warm light. And then I'll actually change the purple to a light blue. The sound. Don't be sorry. What's the sound? It sounds like static or interference. Jeez. Is my microphone dying? Or am I not speaking correctly into it? Is this better? Not a question, but I still appreciate it nonetheless for you letting me know. Okay. Well, if I'm being heard, that is now a scene. A scene put together fairly quickly with just dropping in some assets from the asset browser. I'm going to finish this off. Some words are cut. Huh. Well, it seems like I'll have to rewatch and see why that is. It might be the stream help. I'll check that out. But thank you for letting me know. I'll look into it. I've had this microphone for a long time, and it's been knocked around a couple times accidentally, so I wouldn't be surprised that that would be the culprit. It just being, you know, regular wear and tear. All right. Anywho, that's where we'll end it today. Just a quick brief on the asset browser, how to clean up and organize your files. I think I'm actually going to delete my logo there. It just fits out of place. And I'm going to move these things over, make a nice little composition. There we go. Maybe we add a, maybe we just add on the table. This is just extra time. It's happened only in the last 2 or 3 videos. Damn. I don't think I've changed anything in my last couple of videos as far as my setup goes. but I will definitely look into it. Thank you for letting me know. And I'll try and see if just speaking into the mic a little bit better, changing my settings somewhere fixes it. But hopefully, looking at the playback will give me some info on why that's happening. I'm just doing like a little nod to myself earlier, adding in a sphere and a cube. And maybe a cylinder too. Just so that I can, sorry for that total silence right there for a second. I was thinking so hard about placing that cylinder. Um, placing them a little bit, in front of each other, staggered, so there's a bit of depth there. And I'll make this sphere with a new material, turn the roughness all the way down, turn metallic all the way up, make a little chrome ball, and subdivide it like we did yesterday. And then the cylinder will also subdivide. We'll subdivide it simple first, duplicate that. I don't hate that shape. Yeah, let's roll with that. And then the cube, we can add a bevel. And it could just be a segment of one. Just kind of cut it up like that and then rotate it to 30 degrees that way. Nice. And place the cube a bit more to the side and place the cylinder slightly behind the chrome ball instead. And maybe make the cylinder taller. Now I'm just really getting like into making something totally random. Maybe move these both a bit further back on the coffee table and closer to the cube. Yep. Let's stop it there. Or, sorry, we'll make the, we'll give a material to both of these, just so it looks a slightly bit better. Maybe a bit of a gray tone to the cube and make it very, very rough, so it's like matte. And then we'll grab our cylinder and we will lower the roughness, increase the clear coat, make it kind of shiny. Add a little bit of sheen. Yeah, nice. Just some abstract stuff. And then, I don't know if I want to color it, or just keep it white. I think I would just keep it white. All right. Move the camera over. Not to center this, but to improve the composition just a bit. I like that. And yeah, there you have it. Quick little section on the asset browser, and then a quick little render to top it off from the assets that we set aside. Not bad. Just doing the final tweaks for the render. I'm going to have some depth of field. And my tiling is set right because I said it yesterday. I copied this from a file. I did it mix from scratch. So I'm confident that when I hit render, I will get what I want. So thanks for watching. If you made it to the end on this rewatch, thank you, Ian, for dropping in. It's nice to have you always. I sent out a monthly recap today, so if you'd like to be a part of that, you can always subscribe to the email list on my website. And if you found value in this, leave a comment, subscribe. If you think something could have been done better in the video, you have some comments that are constructive for me, always appreciate the feedback, no matter how I take it, or no matter how you give it. So, yeah, thanks for joining in. Thanks for watching. I'm just going to sit here now and take any questions, I suppose. We'll finish the render to finish. or any sort of feedback. If not, we're just chilling. That's all right too. And you start putting together a list of, I need to get like one of those playlists that you just give credit to in the YouTube description, and have background music every time I do one of these sessions. So at least we're just chilling if I'm not talking. Because I have no problem just keeping on talking while things happen on screen, or things happen slowly on screen. But yeah, I think having some music might be better than just having people feel awkward with the silence, because I'm not awkward with the silence. It sucks with the audio. If I look over, it seems to be picking up fine. I don't see anything out of the ordinary, unless my my computer's crapping out, which is a total possibility. I was looking at new hardware I can get on my desktop. I'm running just a processor, no GPU on this recording streaming computer. But I seem to be doing all right. That's weird. I don't have a GPU in this computer, but it says I do. Or at least there's CPU resources and there's GPU resources, unless they're the same thing. Yeah. How can my GPU be my Intel processor and be at 99%, and then my CPU, which is also my same thing, the Intel processor, be running between 70 and 90%? How can it be running double? Oh. I know a lot about computers, but not enough to know the answer to that. In any case, I think a smoother computer might fix some of the video lag and some of the audio issues. If it turns out that my CPU is working double time, streaming thing. All in due time. We'll get better gear. All right. Might have done an overly ambitious render here with all these pieces. And the chair is floating. uh, it's always good to run a quick one uh, at a lower resolution to see whether or not you get little things like that happening. Because you don't want a floating chair unless everything's floating. Excuse me. Hello there, for you just joining in, we're wrapping up. Sending out a render quick scene made from the asset browser. It's cool also that I have these textures already applied. Like, I really like this style for like subtle textures that just add a little imperfection to the surfaces. And I think I'm gonna make this like a theme for me to have maybe three spheres. Maybe have three spheres with these different materials, the matte, the glossy, and the metallic. But I like what I did here, went a little abstract with my cylinder and cube, and then kept the chrome sphere perfectly reflecting the middle split there on the coffee table. I think that's a nice little detail. Maybe too centered. That art piece is unintentionally looking great. I had actually clipped that through the wall. It's not even supposed to be really looking like that, but I wonder if that's something I can make. I mean, I know I could make it, but would people want it? I think it looks cool. Especially if it had, ooh, now I'm getting thinking, well, I'm gonna put out this render and I have a floating light there. Yeah, definitely run a lower resolution render always before you do your final and wait a little while to find out that you have a light that's weirdly hitting an edge, or that you have a floating chair, or that your art piece is very, very pixelated because it doesn't have enough subdivisions. Or what else? What else can we tear apart here? You have a sharp edge and you haven't blurred out that edge. So we finished. We're going through our denoising. Oh, or if you get a cool idea, or you want to add some lights to the back of the art piece so it shines on the wall and creates more interesting shadows. All those things. Still, you have to really look at it to find those. All right, and there's our compositor that we had also set up. So like if we see that's the real render as it came out, and then the composite does a little adjustment. I gotta get rid of that glare. I don't like it too much there anymore. But yeah, we'll wrap it up there. That's our render. We got our output. I'm going to now fix and tweak those little two things and put the render as a thumbnail. So you'll get to see it as the artwork for this video if you come back to it. And I'll add those lights in behind, fix that chair, get rid of that light. And we're done for today. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you. Appreciate the comment. And see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in.